Good evening, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another episode of Reconstructing Minds Incorporated in partnership with Positive Lifestyle Management and Project Righteous Endeavors. My name is Brother Shantario, aka Brother Midnight. Today, we're going to kick off another awareness session dealing with from the trap to taking responsibility and providing. From the trap to taking responsibility and providing. This acronym that I am using is really from a brother in Paducah, Kentucky by the name of Marshawn Bryant. He owns Trap Lives Matter clothing, and as I endeavor to teach upon this subject, it is a very, very critical subject that needs to be addressed. And I am just really looking forward to the feedback that I'm going to get in dealing with this particular subject, because there are so many different dynamics that is going to be addressed and touched. As you all well know, that I am currently in school to receive a Bachelor of Science in Counseling with emphasis in addiction, chemical dependency, and substance abuse. To let you know a little bit about about who I am, my background. I once believed in the American dream, the trap. I was one of those individuals who participated in illegal acts of being the drug dealer, the user, and also coming out of that lifestyle of recidivism, criminal lifestyle, criminal behavior, and turning my life around. I did a little time in prison, got out in 2019, and currently I am living a life of recovery. I am in school, and by the grace of Allah, I'll be graduating in 2 more years in 2024. So in this particular subject, I'm going to be coming out of a teaching in the blueprint on page 23, and it's called The Trap, an American Dream. The Trap, an American Dream. Most incarcerated youths have grown up with a comprehension of the inner workings of the mind. It is frightening to visualize what the future holds for these youngsters. For them, it is a struggle just to get a GED. And that word, the acronym for GED is General Education Diploma. But it is even worse than when one has gotten his GED and still is incapable of reading and writing properly. Doing simple math problems correctly, or even thinking in a logical manner. That word logical means rational. Education in prison is microscopic of what is happening in schools across America. Our youth are being programmed with hope that they will become will subjects of the system. They are not being taught how to think positively about themselves. And that is really true, brothers and sisters, because when you look at the youth today, the biggest influence over our youth is the music. As I was looking at a video, and in the video was a brother by the name of David Banner, and he was talking about 90% of the music is detrimental to the Black community. And how is that? Who's hit the hardest in this situation or scenario? The youth. Program with the pleasures of this life, with the pleasures of this world, with the pleasures of society. It says, nor are they learning how to manage their lives after school. Rather, in their leisure time, our youth are becoming robots of street language, fashions, and fads. Street language is another word for ebonics. A lot of times, you know, in street terminology, the word ebonics pops up, and that's just basically using street language. Their ambitions are fed to them through the concept of it's the end thing to do. In other words, in order to be accepted by their peers, they participate in whatever their peers are doing. And lo and behold, the peers are their biggest influence. Some of the adults are their biggest influence. Why? Because a lot of our youth are learning by what they see. And, you know, as I was watching the video with Brother David Banner, he said that the difference between Black people and other races is that Black people learn by example instead of reading. And this is an old saying that I've heard for so many years, brothers and sisters, is that if you want to hide anything from a Black man, put it in a book. Now, I'm not belittling the Black community or the Black man or the Black woman, because there are a lot of us out here that are graduating high school, getting their GEDs, graduating with associate degrees, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, doctorate degrees, you know, PhDs, you know, it's a lot of us out there doing our thing. But what about those who are growing up in the ghetto? What about those who come from dysfunctional families? What are they truly learning? Their clever statements and sharp retorts of Hollywood cops and robbers are highly fashionable to the developing teenage mind. Phrases such as "make my day" have become more than just harmlessly clever television script. Our youth are taking such phrases and turning them into attitudes. Consequently, they are walking in a John Wayne stride, carrying a Clint Eastwood pistol and hoping that someone will make my day. This is only an example of how our youth are being misled through the media. However, it also illustrates why a new concept of life is needed. And in today's society, in 2021, especially with the millennials, social media has taken such a platform within the minds and hearts of our youth to where they think that's reality. That's reality. They're looking at the reality shows and thinking the things that they are doing on the reality shows is real. It has gotten so bad. It has gotten so bad in our society where it is the exact opposite of what real is really all about. And that's being just a genuine person, you know? And a lot of what is going on social media, it's like now fake is the new real. Being fake is the new real. So we're going to see how the American dream distorts the minds and hearts of the youth as we continue to read. Television and its commercials is what sells the concept of chasing the American dream. This is well and good for the promotion, advertisement, and sale of the stuff that dreams are made of. However, in comparison, television rarely describes positive and realistic means by which the American dream is attainable. Through television, the burning desire to achieve material success is planted early in a poor man's mind, yet only his real frame of reference as to how he will acquire these things is the ghetto. Most of his prime examples of success are the dope dealers, pimps, and whores, hustlers, junkies, thieves, and con artists. Now, I want to shed light on a very destructive force of the American dream, and that's drug addiction. As we just read on page 24 in the sentence where it says, most of our prime examples of success are the dope dealers, pimps and whores, hustlers, junkies, thieves, and con artists, which is really, really the dynamic of what we see today in 2021. These different characters of people are being seen all throughout the neighborhoods, all in the ghettos, all across America. But the thing I want to pay attention to or give emphasis to is drug addiction. Drug addiction, brothers and sisters. Back in the day, in 1987, there was a commercial that used to come on that said, "This is your brain on drugs," okay? This particular movement meant Partnership for a Drug-Free America, okay? So in this commercial, you would see 2 fried eggs in a pan, right? And we see how the eggs are frying to a crisp, okay? But also, that is just an example of how when drugs take over in the minds and hearts of those who are considered quote unquote junkies, the brain becomes totally dysfunctional, okay? So I want to read you an excerpt from an article that was written in October 2015 called "The Biology of Addiction, Drugs and Alcohol Can Hijack Your Brain." It says people with addiction lose control over their actions. They crave and seek out drugs, alcohol, and other substances, no matter what the cost, even at the risk of damaging friendships, hurting family, or losing jobs. What is it about addiction that makes people behave in such destructive ways as and why is it so hard to quit? Okay, news and health funded scientists are working together to learn more about the biology of addiction. They've shown that addiction is a long lasting and complex brain disease, and that current treatments can help people control their addictions. But even for those who successfully quit, there is always a risk of addiction returning, which is called relapse. Relapse. Now, in the teachings of the blueprint, it talks about recidivism. But in this context, it talks about relapse. So even though a person may quit, there is still a tendency within the mind that they could go back to that same behavior and lifestyle. You will hear a lot of people say, once a crackhead, always a crackhead. Once this, always this. And in the context of them saying that, the tendency to use is always there. But there are plenty of resources that can put that urge, that craving to use any drug in any form and subdue it, like 12-step programs, rehabilitation centers, all kind of different things to combat this pandemic of drug addiction. It says, the biology basis of addiction helps to explain why people need more than just good intentions or willpower to break their addiction. A common misperception is that addiction is a choice or a moral problem, and all you have to do is stop. But nothing could be further from the truth, says a Dr. George Cobb, director of NIH's National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. The brain actually changes with addiction, and it takes a deal of work to get it back to its normal state. The more drugs or alcohol you've taken, the more disruptive it is to the brain. Okay, in another section it says, brain imaging studies of people addicted to drugs or alcohol show decreased activity in their frontal cortex, says Dr. Nora Valco, director of NIH's National Institute on Drug Abuse. When the frontal cortex isn't working properly, people can't make the decision to stop taking drugs, even if they realize the price of taking the drug may be extremely high and they might lose custody of their children or end up in jail. Nonetheless, they take it. And that is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. I went through a couple programs coming out of prison, and in this program, the director did a teaching on the brain. And this correlates with the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. In this teaching, it says that the prefrontal cortex is the maestro of the brain. And once the maestro of the brain becomes corroded with drug abuse because of the dopamine that is released from consuming drugs and alcohol, it becomes dysfunctional and it pushes the individual into survivor mode and animalistic behavior. And this dynamic of, as it said in the trap on page 24, it correlates with those of us who are used to living a certain lifestyle, especially those of us who have been called junkies. It is vitally important that we understand the dynamic of drug addiction. Not saying that drug dealing is not addictive, being a whore is not addictive, being a hustler is not addictive, money is not addictive, gambling is not addictive, sex is not addictive. They all have a place when it comes to addiction. But when a person's life is introduced to drugs and alcohol, and they abuse these substances, the life of the individual spirals out of control. Okay. And I want to continue to read about the biology of addiction. It says teens are especially vulnerable to possible addiction because their brains are not yet fully developed, particularly the frontal regions that help with impulse control and assessing risk. Pleasure circuits in adolescents' brains also operate in overdrive, making drugs and alcohol use even more rewarding and enticing. And what I've come to learn about drug addiction, when we're trapped off in trying to pursue the American dream, when we're caught off in the trap, is simply this: the brain doesn't fully develop until a person reaches the age of 15. Okay. It says addiction is a devastating disease with a relatively high death rate and serious social consequences, Balcour says. We're exploring multiple strategies so individuals will eventually have more treatment options, which will increase their chances of success to help them stop taking drugs. So in other words, brothers and sisters, it is vitally important that we understand the dynamic of drug addiction and how it plays even in the youth lives, because now, you know, the music is making it really, really hard for the youth. The youth are being influenced by this music. They're thinking taking Percocets is cool. They're thinking that taking Molly is cool, and all these different things is cool because they think it increases their sex drive and all this different kind of other foolishness. But in reality, it damages more than anything, and it takes hard work, a process of recovery, to help get the brain back to operating in a normal, natural state. And this, brothers and sisters, is seen within the American dream, the trap. I know a lot of us who are young, the youth, think in reference to the trap, they thinking about the dope spot. And when drug addicts, alcoholics come into the, the, the dope spot, it's hard for them to leave because they're trapped. They're locked in within their mind that they need whatever is offered by the dope dealer, by the whore, by the hustler, by the con artist, whoever is around at that time. You know what I mean? Those are the individuals that the youth are looking up to. Back to page 24 in the teachings of the blueprint. Television and its commercials is what sells the concept of chasing the American dream. This is well and good for promotion, advertisement, and the sale of the stuff that dreams are made of. However, in comparison, television rarely describes the positive and realistic means by which the American dream is attainable. Through television, the burning desire to achieve material success is planted early in the poor person's mind, yet his only real frame of reference is as how to as how as to how he will acquire these things is the ghetto. Most of his prime examples of success, as I read again, are the dope dealers, pimps, whores, hustlers, junkies, thieves, and con artists. Of course, he looks up to the Michael Jordans and Michael Jacksons of the world, but he does not know Michael Jordan. He cannot touch Michael Jackson and can only see the people on television. Opposite this reality is the dope dealer who's always available and visible and can be touched and talked to daily. The pimp's fancies, cars are real, not commercials. The negative elements of our community are the real heroes because in the minds of ghetto youth, they have used their wit to fulfill the American dream. Star athletes, entertainers, and other such role models are so far removed and inaccessible that they are not considered part of the youth's real world. And that's not saying that they're not giving back to their community. Because in today's society, you have the likes of people like LeBron James, people who have grew up in the hoods. You have Derrick Rose, who grew up in Chicago, giving back to his neighborhood and in the places where he grew up in Chicago. Chance the Rapper, all these different people that are doing something to help their communities. Lil Baby, he's giving back to his community. Many of the stars and athletes today are doing something to give back, but are they doing it out of the kindness of their hearts, or are they doing it just because they're told to do it because it makes them look good? And that's the heart of the ghetto gospel, brothers and sisters. We have to really take a step back and analyze situations for what they really are. The trap, the American dream, requires that we take a step back and really analyze what's going on around us. Moment by moment, second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. Okay. It says, for instance, the Cosby Shows was the highest rated sitcom on television and is filled with humorous examples of Black role modeling. Still, the Cosby Show is purely entertainment, and the average ghetto youth will quickly counter that. Many of the most successful athletes and entertainers still have to pay the dope man eventually. And that's true because their music glorifies the lifestyle. And you will find out that some of the rappers have never participated in what they rap about, but they know somebody or they're close to somebody that lived the lifestyle. And according to the millennial generation's context of speaking, you know, they use the term, you know, they are really not about that life. Okay. It says, in that single statement lies the potential death and incarceration of a whole generation. And throughout the ghettos of America, dope dealers, pimps and whores, hustlers, thieves, and con artists are becoming as American as apple pie. In impoverished America, these negative elements have become the heroes and role models of a lost generation. The main question that confronts society is, what can be done to change the negative direction of our youth? And that's what Reconstructing Minds Incorporated is all about. That's what positive lifestyle management is all about. That's what Project Righteous Endeavors is all about. Setting the tone and educating society on the dynamics of what goes on in the ghetto, but also utilizing what we know through educating the people in a righteous manner. For those of us who grew up in those lifestyles and have the experience of trying to live the American dream, we hold the keys to eliminating that dynamic of life or saving the individual or the youth from that lifestyle. Because there's only three things that's going to happen. There's only three things, brothers and sisters: death, incarceration, and recidivism. Going back to the same old habits, the same old hobbies, the same old lifestyle, you know, tricking ourselves that if we go back, things will be different. And what we need is cognitive reconstructing. Cognitive reconstructing. In order to change the way I feel, I must change the way I think. In order for the youth to change the way they feel, they must change the way they think. In order for the drug addict to get off drugs, he has to do what is conducive to keep his recovery or put his recovery first in his life. And learn about his thoughts, his feelings, his cravings, his emotions. Be able to examine himself. And not only that, getting the right medication. One of the most dynamic and appropriate therapy processes for a drug addict is called cognitive behavioral therapy, that deals with your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. It allows the client and the clinician to come up with a plan to properly assess their thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and create a dynamic of coping skills to create a diversion so the drug addict will not fall back into active addiction. You know what I'm saying? You hear it in different programs like NAAA, CA, all these different programs. You know what I mean? You'll hear certain terminology, and you know, those programs really do work if you work them. If you work them. If you choose to work those programs, they really work. I myself can attest to it because I've lived the lifestyle. Been there, done that. But now I'm doing everything that I can, putting my energy into saving the youth, educating the youth. And some of us who are of the older generation, we need this too. You know, because some of us are still caught up in the old way of living. Some of us are still caught up in doing things that only lead us back to death, lead us to death, incarceration, or recidivism. But if we can change, in order to change the way we feel, we must change the way we think and adopt the resources that we have to fight for our lives. Okay? It says, for those who believe in the 6 principles of growth and development, and perhaps for all of society, the answer lies in our ability to perceive the vision of Larry Hoover and work toward making it a reality. The 6 principles of growth and development, brothers and sisters, is education, economical, political, social development, organization, and unity. In order to achieve education, we have to graduate high school. If we can't graduate high school, get a general education diploma. And once we receive one or the 2 of those, we can go on and seek higher levels of education, work on an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a doctorate degree, a PhD, whatever it is you want to achieve according to your education, you can attain that. In order to live the lifestyle that you want, you must have some sort of education. Economics, having a stable income, and also being able to create or generate generational wealth. You know, in order to truly attain economics, you must have vision. You must have a vision. You know what I mean? You must have some sense of entrepreneurship if you don't want to work for anybody. Politics. Learn the dynamics of the government, local, state, and federal. Know who are making the laws. You know what I mean? Study the laws of the land, wherever you may be, no matter what state you're in. Study the laws of the land. Know the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Those are the things that are going to help us. Social development, developing relationships within your community. You know what I mean? Some of us are even blessed enough to get to know mayors, city councilmen, aldermen. You know what I mean? Those things that are conducive to your social development. You know what I'm saying? Coming out of that old mentality. You know what I mean? Some of us like to use the term acting ghetto. Some of us even go so far to say you can take the brother out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the brother. You know what I'm saying? And in some instances that might be true, but at the end of the day, you know, experiences of life, you know, can determine your destination. Organization. Understanding what organization or being organized is really all about. That's the dynamic of being a part of a special group of people. Organization is a unified and consolidated group of people with an executive structure that deals with the well-being of all its people. It's an executive structure of business and enterprise for individual growth and collective acceleration of the body as a whole. Unity, being one mind, one body, one soul. Having a sense of oneness. The root word for unity is unit. Do we understand what the word principle means? Principle is a basic truth, law, or assumption. A rule of standard, especially of good behavior. In other words, being a man of principle, moral or ethical standards or judgments collectively. Being a man, a woman, a adolescent, being a person of morals and principles, being moral and ethical in all that you say and do. We believe that we are a special group of people with integrity and dignity. So we live by what we believe. Brothers and sisters, we need to understand the difference. When we take upon the 6 principles of growth and development, those things are conducive to really living out the new concept in our lives. Not only in our lives, but in society as a whole. Now, brothers and sisters, here comes the good part. I want to highlight Brother Marshawn Bryant and his clothing line, Trap Lives Matter. That acronym is so dynamic within itself, taking responsibility and providing in a legitimate manner. There is no need to go back to the old way of life, where there's so many different resources that we could use to be positive and productive members of society. Like I said, man, I just wanted to take out this time to really put emphasis on the young generation, understanding the dynamics, negative or positive, of the American dream, educating the youth, educating the older generation, educating myself as I can continue to grow and develop. Like I said in the last session, brothers and sisters, we will never stop growing and developing. We can never escape growth and development. Why? Because we're steady growing. We're steady developing. from the trap to taking responsibility and providing in a positive and productive manner, brothers and sisters. That's what it's all about. For you, brothers and sisters who really have been enjoying these teachings, I invite you to hit the like button and subscribe to Positive Lifestyle Manager, Project Righteous Endeavors, and Reconstructing Minds Incorporated. In the words of Mr. Earl Stevens, AKA E40, I thought you thought. You know what I'm saying? The old terminology, according to the millennial generation, is keep it 100. But now they say keep it 1,000. Things are steady changing around us, brothers and sisters. It is our duty as being a part of the older generation to bridge the gap with the young generation and understand how they feel, what they think, what they're going through. From the trap to taking responsibility and providing in a legitimate manner. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your time. This has been another episode of Reconstructing Minds Incorporated. I hope you've enjoyed it just as much as I have. Love, honor, and respect to all my brothers and sisters. It has been such a great time spending time with you. Love, family.